Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Daily Dizzle for Tuesday, January 25th, 2011. It's Tommy Dizzlemits as always, and it's Oscar Day. In case anyone didn't hear, the nominations were announced this morning. King's Speech and True Grit ended up leading the way with 12 and 10 nominations each, proving that the Academy likes to wet their pants over a period set movie. So they're like, oh my god, the costumes, oh my god, the art, oh my god, everything about it is so awesome. Meanwhile, on the more current side of things, Social Network and Inception both had 8 nominations. Also doing well were The Fighter with 7, 127 Hours with 6, Toy Story 3 and Black Swan with 5, and then Winter's Bone and The Kids Are Alright with 4 each. So those two ended up kind of being the indie flicks that ended up getting in real well. We've got about almost 20 categories to cover, so let's run through those and we'll have some brief thoughts on them. Best Picture, this one has benefited from expanding from 5 nominations to 10 in the last couple of years, after The Dark Knight was snubbed the one year and everyone just had like an absolute shit fit about it. So this year the nominations are 127 Hours, Black Swan, The Fighter, Inception, Kids Are Alright, The King's Speech, Social Network, Toy Story 3, True Grit, and The Winter's Bone. I think the one I'm most happy about is definitely Toy Story 3. You know, I'm I guess technically what you would call an adult, and I saw it twice, so definitely shows how awesome of a movie it was. And I'm just happy that it got recognized above, you know, being an animated movie. Though as soon as they were announced, people were already talking shit about an animated movie being in the league of all these other ones. Though once again, the 10 nominations, having more slots this year, ended up enabling pretty much all the movies that were expected to get a nomination in that category to come through. For actor in a leading role, Javier Bardem got a nomination for Beautiful, a random foreign movie, which is kind of making a big news randomly, I guess. I mean, it's not unheard of for an actor to have a passion project, something along those lines. It's not really a huge audience for it, but it's something that they're going to see made and, you know, being in. So it's good to see him get nominated regardless. Then you have Jeff Bridges for True Grit, which always good to have the dude nominated. Jesse Eisenberg for The Social Network. So he's come a long way from you know, appearing in The Village and starring in Adventureland and Zombieland. Now he's an Oscar-nominated actor. Let's hope that doesn't like slow down any of the development of like Zombieland 2 or any of that. Because now he can get a little bit more money for his movies. Colin Firth for The King's Speech and James Franco for 127 Hours round those out. James Franco, as soon as he heard the nominations, was already saying how Colin Firth will probably win it. Some people are saying it's a snubbing that Mark Wahlberg didn't get nominated for The Fighter. But you kind of know it's never really going to get recognized for him, only because everyone has you know, the image of Mark Wahlberg as being a Boston native. You know, you can't really break out of that no matter what role you're playing, especially when you're playing something that kind of personifies it. I don't know if that quite qualifies as acting. Meanwhile, actress in the leading role, Annette Bening for The Kids Are Alright, Nicole Kidman for Rabbit Hole, Jennifer Lawrence for Winter's Bone. Those were all, you know, lesser heard of ones, but all expected. Natalie Portman for Black Swan, and Michelle Williams for Blue Valentine. For directing, Black Swan, The Fighter, The King's Speech, The Social Network, and True Grit all got recognized. You have some big-name directors in there, Joel and Ethan Coen, David Fincher, Darren Aronofsky, David O. Russell. But the one that's kind of sticks out like a sore thumb is Tom Hooper. I mean, not that you didn't know that The King's Speech was going to get recognized for the directing category, but everyone really expected Christopher Nolan to get it for Inception. I think Christopher Nolan is going to end up proving himself as kind of the Martin Scorsese of the modern-day cinema, where he's going to end up getting nominated eventually, but it'll take him a while to win it. I mean, Scorsese was, what, 70 when he just won it finally after getting nominated a couple times? So it's going to be one of those things where anyone on the Nolan bandwagon will be able to complain about that for a while, so good for them being able to have fuel for the fire. Moving on to the supporting role categories in the actor side of things, Christian Bale for The Fighter was a guarantee, and it comes through. Mark Ruffalo gets it for The Kids Are Alright, which he's a pretty good actor. Jeffrey Rush for The King's Speech. Jeremy Renner for The Town, which a little bit of a surprise. People were kind of curious if it would get recognized, and ends up coming through. Though Jeremy Renner, after his win last year for Best Actor, he's going to get recognized a lot more for anything he does. Rounding that out, John Hawkes for The Winter's Bone. In an actress side of things, we have Amy Adams for The Fighter. We also have Melissa Leo from The Fighter. From The King's Speech, we have Helena Bonham Carter. We also have Haley Steinfeld for True Grit. That was her first movie that she did, so it's kind of huge for you to do that. It's almost like the Abigail Breslin kind of thing, just a couple years older. And rounding that out, we have Jackie Weaver for Animal Kingdom. For the animated feature film category, How to Train Your Dragon, The Illusionist, and Toy Story 3 end up getting the nominations on those. It's kind of weird that they only have 3 nominations. You would think that maybe they would have at least 5, considering the amount of animated movies that come out, but maybe they do that just to uphold the integrity. For the screenplays, for adapted, we've got Toy Story 3, 127 Hours, True Grit, The Social Network, and Winter's Bone. For original, we have Another Year, The Kids Are Alright, Inception, The King's Speech, and The Fighter. Art direction goes to Alice in Wonderland, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, Inception, The King's Speech, True Grit. So now we're kind of getting into the categories that are lesser heard ones, so you get the opportunity for the big blockbusters that you knew wouldn't get Oscar nominations to get recognized, as well as some ones that you might have forgotten about that are slightly amusing that we'll get to in a bit. Cinematography, Black Swan, Inception, The King's Speech, The Social Network, and True Grit all get it. Costume design, we've got Alice in Wonderland, I Am Love, The King's Speech, The Tempest, and True Grit. Meanwhile, moving on to film editing, 127 Hours, Black Swan, The Fighter, The King's Speech, and The Social Network. So, a lot of the big movies that had, the big production values that you would expect to get seen for this. Makeup goes to Barney's Version. That's the one with Paul Giamatti where he actually has hair. So, that's one that kind of gets a lot of recognition, not to mention the fact that they kind of show it at 3 different parts in all these people's lives. So, they end up really having to use makeup to age them. It's almost like Definitely Maybe with all the storylines elapsing over so long of a time. You have The Way Back getting nominated for that, which good to see that the fact that it bombed, it was able to get a nomination out of it. And rounding out that category, there's precious few slots in the makeup nominations for the Academy Awards. It's good to see an epic bomb like The Wolfman get nominated, especially when I have not seen it, but I've just heard that the makeup is laughably bad. So, way to go, Academy. You're almost putting yourself on the level of the Razzie Awards at this point. To round out the last 5 categories, starting with music, the score for the films, we have 127 Hours, How to Train Your Dragon, Hans Zimmer for Inception, which is awesome. Always good to see him getting nominated, especially because with the Batman movies, they always found some kind of technical way to screw him, like too many people working on it or something like that. Though if you've heard or seen any movies that have used the music that you'd end up hearing from Hans Zimmer, he's a very distinct style to him. The King's Speech, and once again, Trent Reznor, awesome to see him getting recognized for The Social Network. On top of winning a Golden Globe, he is now nominated for an Oscar. Maybe he will pick that one up as well. Fingers crossed. For song, you have Coming Home from Country Strong, which was the reason that it had a big wide release was maybe the fact that it would get some Oscar nominations and came through. Tangled gets 127 Hours, and Toy Story 3. So really all ones that it would be expected because the kids' movies animated always get to have some awesome musical numbers in them. The big story coming out though, Golden Globe winning song from Burlesque, the one that was nominated because of the free trip to go see Cher, does not get a nomination here, surprisingly. Wonder why. Meanwhile, moving on, sound editing nominations end up being Inception, Toy Story 3. I'm very surprised to see that only because there were parts in it that every time I saw it, you could tell that Tom Hanks' voice as Woody, when he get really loud, you could tell he was in a studio booth. And I don't know, it just didn't seem like they did a good job necessarily with that. Tron Legacy, True Grit, and Unstoppable get nominations, so good to see Denzel at least gets a nomination, even if it's not for anything that he did with the movie. It's just the fact that it's a movie with him in it, but still. Sound mixing goes to Inception, The King's Speech, Salt, The Social Network, and True Grit. Rounding out the nominations, we've got the visual effects category. That goes to, starting with Alice in Wonderland, Very surprising considering the 3D effects were, post-conversion kind of thing, so you're almost recognizing that the movies that didn't put full effort necessarily into the realms of what they're trying to achieve with the effects, you're saying that they might have, achieved them and then some, since they're award-winning. Regardless, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 gets that, but those are always good with pulling off, unrealistic things with a kind of sense of realism. I mean realistic in the sense that there's magic. Hereafter, which was the Clint Eastwood one with special effects where Matt Damon saw shit happening, I guess, gets nominated. People expected it to get a little bit more in the way of recognition, so at least it can pick up the special effects nom. You also have Inception and Iron Man 2 getting those as well. But the big story there is some people are kind of surprised, and anyone who's seen the movie apparently will jump on that bandwagon. And even from the commercials, I would kind of agree. Very weird to see Tron Legacy not on there. Though it really always seems that the Tron franchise at this point is almost going to be a thing that is slightly ahead of its time and just not in enough to kind of get the recognition that it should. So I guess really no surprise there in the long run. So we thank you guys for joining us here for the Daily Dizzle Oscar nomination coverage. If this is your first time checking us out, we do Monday through Friday videos. You can check those out on our YouTube channel by clicking our username, or you can go to youtube.com/Dizzlemits. On top of that, we do a weekend update check-in. We also have some older music video highlights from a bunch of awesome movies like Batman Begins, Dark Knight, High Fidelity, Freddy vs. Jason, The Negotiator, Say Anything, tons of other ones. So go ahead and browse through those. Check them out if you haven't seen them already. Guaranteed to be able to kill some time. Go ahead and subscribe to us. If you found any of the information here useful today, give us a like. It would help. And hopefully we'll see you guys here tomorrow for the Daily Dizzle. This is Tommy Dizzlemits. We'll see you Wednesday.